Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Pope Metallicus, and welcome to episode 7 of Rock and Roll Religion, where we're going to be talking about the newest Ghost record with a friend of mine, and maybe a friend of some of yours too, coming to us all the way from the UK. It's the lovely and talented Miss Amber Andromeda. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. How are you?
I'm
Thank you
doing
for
all
having me
right.
on.
Absolutely. And we are talking about this little beastie right here, the new record from Ghost, which I love their album art, I gotta say.
It is very epic.
And it's very unique to them too. There's
Mm.
nobody that does covers like this.
Do,
It's
do you know? Yeah, I
I
was going to
don't
say, do you know who does the artwork?
I
Because
can Google that real quick.
I
I haven't.
don't.
Um
uh,
Hang on. I should have had that, but I don't.
it literally just occurred to me, like, I wonder
It
who
didn't
does
occur to me
that.
either. Like I never think of it. And somebody usually asks me that question. I just never think of it.
It's like, imagine being able to draw that. I just.
Oh yeah, I mean these guys are obviously
Um,
supremely talented.
I need to put your stream up so I can see what's happening
Yeah.
with the chat and such.
Yeah. Why is that not showing up? It should. No. Unless there isn't one right now. Okay. All right. Let's see here.
So I think, well, the person that did this artwork is a name I absolutely cannot pronounce at all.
Yeah, that seems to be a fairly common thing with a lot of these. Just like
so.
I've given up on trying to pronounce anything Scandinavian. It's just like, yeah, that what they said.
But yeah, incredible work, obviously.
It's got a very old school Iron Maiden feel to it.
Yeah,
In a lot
with
of
the
ways.
skull, like this one has for sure.
All right. Well, we got lovely Sherry in chat here, and Spider's here too.
Hello, people.
So, welcome, guys. Good to have you here.
Thanks for being here.
And no, it's going to be a great review because honestly, like musically, I've always loved this band. They do so many things well, and can pull off so many different styles too. And I think this is the latest evolution of it, where they've really gone all in on this record with that old school like trad heavy and doom metal sound that I really, really dig from these guys.
Yeah. No, I am a big fan of Ghost as a whole, as you know. I will start off by saying, though, that this is probably my least favourite so far. And I say that as somebody who really loves the other albums. Yeah.
It is a very different record.
It is, which is good. Like, obviously, I totally understand they had to do something different. I don't dislike it. Like, I still think it's a solid album.
It's just not it's just not the direction you want them to go in.
It's not doing it for me. Like, say, like Meliora, which I absolutely love, and their first album, the Opus album.
Yeah, I mean, those are both absolutely titanic. So
yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, I've listened to it several times now. I do have some like favorite tracks, which I guess we'll talk about. I don't know if you like normally go through each track or.
I usually start off at the top and just work my way down. So the intro track I really like. That opening music instrumental I really dig.
Yeah, that's good.
I thought it set the tone really well for what is going to come. I will say there is a massive side A bias on this record, where the first half of the record I think is a lot stronger than the second.
Oh, that's so funny because I actually prefer the second half.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Let me just. I can't remember the exact order. Hang on a sec. But yeah, second half. Yeah, from Watcher in the Sky onwards, does it for me more.
The Watcher in the Sky is probably my high point for this record.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
It's a fantastic track. Although I like the first half a lot better because you have a lot more of the trad heavy metal sound with songs like Spillways, combining in that little like hard rock.
Yeah, see, like
tone a little bit.
Knowing what kind of stuff you like, I kind of had a feeling you would say that. I think, yeah, it's your vibe. I think like the first half.
Yeah, I come in from that side of the house, like the old school like 80s heavy metal sound, rather than the more modern genres. But that's the cool thing with Ghost is they kind of combine a lot of different.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
A lot of different sounds into what makes them unique.
I agree with Spider, Watcher, and Respite hands down. Yes,
those are
Respite
both good tracks.
Another one.
I think Griftwood I have a lot of appreciation for.
That one. Wait, let me see. 1, 2. I do like that, and my other favorite is the Darkness.
That was actually probably my least favorite song on this record because it doesn't fit with the others. Right. It's a lot slower, a lot more acoustic. It feels like if it's a good song, I like it, but I don't think it belongs on this record. I would put it much more on like a more down-paced record. Yeah, Spider, the Griftwood does kind of sound like a Van Halen track, and that may be why I love it so much because I'm a huge Van Halen fan.
Yeah, so I have like mixed views on it. Like I said, it's a solid album. Like I definitely like it, but it's not like
that's the hard part with a band like Ghost is like their other every album they've come out with is so high quality that when you can come across one that just doesn't sit with you right, it's just like, it's like I don't want to say bad things about it because I don't like it. It's just I like the other stuff more.
That is basically how I feel about it.
That's kind of why I think like certain albums in bands' discographies, like I always look at Point of Entry by Judas Priest for this. It's not necessarily it's a bad record because it's not. It's actually a fantastic record. It's just in between two of their immortal classics.
Yeah.
So it ends up looking worse by comparison.
That is basically that sums up how I feel about it as a whole.
Especially coming off a prequel, I could see people like having a very different view of this record because it's a very different sound.
I love prequel as well. Like,
it's a great record, and like they did so many different musical styles on there, from hard rock to basically doom metal to a couple of synthwave tracks, basically. And that, like, especially Miasma is mostly a synth track.
Yeah, great instrumental. Love that track.
Which I love the fact that you have a mostly synth track, include a lot of the guitar work that sounds very Thriller-esque in terms of how they pulled it off, and then you add in a saxophone solo just because you can.
It's great. It's
a fantastic piece of music. It's like, he just plays the saxophone. Why? Because reasons.
Because
he's Tobias Forge and he does what he wants.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that's one of the reasons he created this band, was just to screw around musically in ways he couldn't with his black metal output.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard one of those albums, and I just think I cannot believe this is the same guy. I know it's like a long time ago.
The two projects are very different. Like, could not be any more different musically, or lyrical content. They're somewhat similar in ways, but I like Ghost a lot better than I like his other output. But I love the concept of Ghost too, in that it's either a rock band disguised as a satanic cult, or a satanic cult disguised as a rock band, and no one's entirely sure which.
Yes. I think like I guess they do have that kind of not like cheesiness element, but you know what I mean,
Yep.
like they don't
They have
take
a very
themselves too seriously, but like they are
they have a
such a
poppy sound to
freaking
it.
good
They have
band.
they have like a poppier, more
Yeah.
mainstream sound to them than you would expect out of a satanic band. And I think
Mm.
that's part of the allure of Ghost, and one of the reasons I love them so much is the way they write. It's like if the devil was actually coming after you, this is how he'd do it. Like he'd come up to you
Yeah.
as a friend and be like very like almost like songs like Circe or a couple of songs on this record like Call Me Little Sunshine, where it's like very reassuring, very affirming, like, no, don't worry
Yeah.
about it. I've got your back. You can get in touch with me anytime. And then it's like it sounds
Yeah.
very friendly and reassuring until you realize who's talking.
Yeah. That is very true, actually.
I love that
So
with their writing.
mm, absolutely. I see the little chat. You prefer Opus over this? Yes, I do.
I can
Might
see
be a
that though.
controversial opinion, but I mean, that was the first album I listened to. Naturally, that was the first album that really got me into the band. And yeah, it's just one of those albums I can still listen to. Like,
And I do like
so
how there's
much.
musical callbacks on this to the earlier stuff.
Um,
Like in terms of stylistic changes, like 20s, I thought reminded me a lot of Mummy Dust in the execution. And that it's very
mm,
heavy, very thrashy, and kind of has the same feel to it.
it, yeah. I do like how they try to do something different as well. Like you've got that kind of like orchestral
Mm.
thing in it, the brass instruments and stuff. Not my favorite on the album, but I do
Yeah, it was
like.
kind of an odd one for me. And
Yeah,
I think I like the music, the musicianship on it. I think it's the vocal style on that track that I don't really like
yeah.
because it
I
just
think
doesn't fit.
yes, and I think it might maybe like you know how like for example they have like a lot of choral
Hmm.
elements, which I absolutely love. I absolutely love choral music. On like their other albums, I think maybe they should have maybe could have brought something like that into it. I don't know, but I think I was missing that element.
Musically, I think it's a lot. I detected a lot of Metallica in that in the musicianship on that one. It's very thrashy, and that makes sense because they've toured with Metallica a lot. I know the two bands are very close, so it would make sense that their styles kind of meld together after a while. And I know Metallica are huge fans of these guys, which should tell you exactly how talented they are musically.
Yeah.
Because that's like Metallica, like for all of their faults, are musically very talented.
Oh yeah, I do love Metallica. Like,
Except you, Lars, you know what you did.
so yeah, and I forgot what I was
But
going to say, but
I love the different instruments you'll hear in this record too, or
Mhm.
in this band too, compared to most metal bands. Like
Yeah,
like moving into Spillways, or Kazarian, you have a lot of keyboard work, a lot of piano, and stuff like that in the background, and I think that's really cool because you don't hear that with a lot of bands.
yeah, I definitely do enjoy that. Which is again like going back to them like using an actual like choir, like full choir in
Mm.
their other records. Like I just love that so much. And yeah, like Kaiserion is like it's kind of almost annoyingly catchy. It's the song I keep getting in my head.
Right? It's
Um,
that track.
is that yeah? Um, so absolutely solid track. Not my favorite. I think it's probably a bit. It's really a bit too like maybe upbeat for me.
That's the beauty of these songs from Ghost, though, is it sounds very
Yeah.
upbeat. Square Hammer is a perfect example.
Oh, I love Square. Yeah.
It's so upbeat and so fun and so catchy, and then you read the lyrics and you're like, oh. I mean,
Yeah. I
obviously that
think
one's just
yeah.
a love letter to Hammer
Overall,
Horror,
I
but
like like about Ghost is that they have that like not jokey, but you know what I mean, always like
It's a fun, like,
fun, yeah,
yeah,
fun. But then you
very
have
very
that like
poppy
dark
style.
element in it as well. Maybe like the first half of the album just didn't have
That's
quite
that's
enough
what I liked about like
balance.
Kazarian lesser to a lesser extent, but Call Me a Little Sunshine is great because it has that very poppy feel to it, but it has that sinister undertone
Mm-hmm.
that you're like, especially during the chorus, you're like, oh yeah, this is very nice. Oh, it's the devil talking again, isn't it? Oh,
Just don't pay attention to that part.
yeah, it's just like it's fine. Just ignore it. It's fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is something I love about Ghost
and
overall.
that's been a hallmark of Ghost since the inception is like a more not pop sound, but a lot more mainstream sound with that
Mhm.
sinister undertone to it that's
Yeah,
really seductive.
it's
I
got these
really
like
enjoy it.
really catchy like songs you just want to like belt out at the top of your voice, but then like the lyrics
I mean, when was the last time you heard?
about like rotting corpses
Oh yeah,
and
when was the last time you heard a song with lyrical content like this on the radio?
yeah, exactly.
Like, and that Squarehammer, Circe, Rats, they all had mainstream play over here.
Yeah, I can
Like you'd hear
imagine
it on
that.
like it wasn't even just the rock stations either. I heard it on a top 40 station. I'm like, wait, what?
Nice.
It's like you mean metal's actually on a popular station again? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think that happens in the UK, which sucks. Like UK radio is
It's
just
not
too nice
common
for
over
that.
here either. Scandinavia, it's apparently common all over the place. Like you'll hear bands like Sabaton and these guys and all that on the radio constantly.
Oh.
Yet another thing Scandinavia does well. Damn you,
Yeah,
Sweden.
exactly.
And they're producing so many new bands out right now. Like Sabaton's from there. Ghost started there. A whole bunch of the NWO THM bands are coming out of there, like Ambush, Enforcer, a whole bunch of them. And they're just really killing it right now.
Yeah, yes.
And they're doing it by going back to that more 70s and 80s style of rock and heavy metal that like everyone loves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it has like that sweet spot from like the early to mid early 70s to like the late 80s was like pretty much the pinnacle of rock music,
Mm-hmm.
both in terms of sound and popularity.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's like no one talks about it that much anymore, which kind of sucks. Rock and metal, especially, or any kind of like sub genres of metal.
Yeah, they kind of went underground because I think a lot of the more extreme styles started getting more popularity, and then the people who aren't into the scene heard that and figured that's all it was. So they just ignore it completely. It's like, no, that's like death metal. That's one specific subgenre.
Yeah. I mean, I am generally, I think, like more of a fan of maybe the more modern stuff than say you are, but obviously I do appreciate.
Well, I'm a big fan of the modern stuff, but I'm just more on the speed and power metal side of the house.
Yeah, I think I heard when I first heard that Kaiserion track, I just like thought, oh yeah, Pope Metallica's. I bet
Oh
you
yeah,
love this track.
that one was just straight up my alley. I was like, ooh, okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I like this record already.
very like very priesty, Judas Priesty,
Yep.
I think. So I was like, yeah, you're gonna love this.
Oh yeah, I mean and I love the people like especially on the darker side of the house who are like, oh, keyboards don't belong in metal. It's like, really? Have you never heard Rainbow?
Blasphemy, blasphemy.
It's like, have you never heard Rainbow, Blind Guardian, Gamma Ray, any of it?
Keyboards belong anywhere and everywhere, in my opinion.
Right?
But,
And even Black Sabbath, they use keyboards a lot in a
yeah.
lot of their early stuff. It's just like I don't understand how people think that.
No, that's crazy. Like people that would say that.
It's like the entire genres had them from pretty much minute one. And some of the biggest bands in the genre, like Iron Maiden, used synths before a lot of people did.
Synths have their place everywhere, in my opinion.
Yeah, pretty much. And they can make. I'll put it this way: they can make any track better by being used smartly.
Absolutely.
I think they can be overdone, and I think the '80s gave us a lot of examples of how they're overdone. But
yeah,
used properly and in the right context, I think a synth. I think synth can be a great instrument and a great tool.
Mm,
It's just like everything else. I mean, a guitar solo is great and all, but when it's 4 minutes long and you're
mm.
just kind of noodling for noodling's sake, well, it just kind of takes
Yeah.
away from the album as a whole, or the
See,
track
I
as a whole.
actually like, and this might be a controversial opinion, but I find that with Slayer, like, and I do like Slayer. They're not like one of my favorites, but sorry, this is kind of going a little bit off topic. But
You
now
are
that you
among
said
friends
that,
here. Kerry King, I hate as a guitarist. Like
okay.
his rhythm stuff is great,
Like I appreciate it, but it's just like it's too much.
but
Like
his
you
his
said,
his
noodling for
rhythm
the
stuff,
sake
like when
of
he's
it.
riffing, he's fantastic. But
Yeah.
when he tries to solo, he sounds like someone having a seizure with a guitar in his hand.
Yeah, and it's just like when sometimes it like certain Slayer songs, I'll just skip over that bit because they got some really like absolute classic songs, obviously. But
I went and actually saw them
yeah,
live. I was there to see Amon Amarth, but they were the headliner. And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, well, this is their farewell tour, so might as well go see Slayer.
yeah.
And live, they are fucking phenomenal.
Mm.
And just the sheer energy of the crowd when a Slayer, like the pit for Angel of Death was just ridiculous.
Oh my god.
They had
Yeah,
a circle pit going that was probably 80% of the crowd.
yeah, that's
It's
insane.
like if you,
Oh
if
yeah,
you
like
if you didn't want to be in a mosh pit, that was your time to go get a beer.
yeah, you have no choice.
It's like
Um,
the pit has taken over the crowd. You might want to leave now.
but like, oh yeah, like they'd be incredible to see live. Like, not no disrespect to the band, but that's like a something I don't like about them. And obviously, I love a good guitar riff. Who doesn't? But I think when you're just like going, blah, 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 like you said, like having basically a seizure.
The
Like,
solos are just out of
there's
control,
no
and they come
song
out of
anymore.
nowhere.
There's no melody, and it's just like, oh,
That's
it's
the
like
thing.
songs. Yeah,
That's the thing with Slayer is they've sacrificed melody for the sake of just pure aggression.
yeah, and
And with
it's
some
sometimes
stuff it
it's
works, but
South
the
of
thing,
Heaven. Yeah, that's a tune.
a lot of the thrash metal stuff, the reason I don't like it as much is a lot of times the solo will just come out of nowhere too. Like there's be no
Yeah,
build up
I
to
think
it.
yeah,
There'll be no like intro. There'll be no
yeah.
build up to it. It's
Slayer
just
is like
bam.
a biggest offender for that, in my opinion. But I do love, you know, Die by Yourself. I love
Hey Nick,
Anthrax, Megadeth as well, like because they just have that balance a bit better, I think. Than
Megadeth I think is musically the best out of all four in
mm,
terms of skill
okay,
level. In terms
right.
of what I like the best, probably early Metallica. But Anthrax is hard to beat.
Mm. And funny enough, they were the band I listened to like last out of the four. Like
They were the last one I got into as well.
first it was Metallica, then Slayer, then Megadeth, then Anthrax. Um, but yeah, no, I think. I mean, we're going totally off topic. I know, but
Oh
it
well,
just made me think of Slayer when you said about.
that's what happens here. We go off on tangents and then we come back. We'll get there. But no, it's a but no, this is a very Kazarian especially has a very 80s priest vibe to it.
Yeah, but when it starts off with that like high pitch, like not scream, but when you just go like at the
Yep.
beginning.
That's one of
Like,
those
this
like
is hope. This
yep,
is hope. Like,
yep.
I was just like, oh,
That
I could
was
just tell, like, when we do this video, it's just going to be like, yeah, I don't like this as much as their other album, sorry. But
oh,
it's a solid album. It's just like with Melioria Opus, Infestus Man.
that's
You
the thing
listen
with
to
Ghost
those
is you
over
have
and
to really
over and
look at
over.
you have to really look through and find one you're not a fan of.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
and even some of their weaker stuff, it's not a bad song. I just don't like it as much as the others.
exactly. That's how I feel about like the first half of this album until it gets to like Watcher in the Sky. And also I will just say like that interlude, Bite of Passage, I wish that was a full song because I really like that interlude.
Yeah, it was a really interesting musically, and I was waiting to see where they went with it.
I was like,
And
oh,
then
I
they just
really like
went in,
this.
and
And then
then they
it's like,
just
oh no, it's just a
went into the
30
next track.
second interlude. Damn it.
It's just like, oh, okay, so that was really all you were going with on that one. Okay.
Yeah. But it does go nicely into Respite, which is one of my favorites.
No, as an album closer, that works really well too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there's a band me and Nick Weiser both listened to called Heat. One of their albums, the last song on the record is so far and away above everything else on the album, and that's not saying anything bad about the rest of it because it's all pretty good. But the last album is just an absolute banger, and it's like it's almost too good because you're like kind of like anticipating trying to get to the end of the album. Like, come on, like I want to get to that one.
Yeah,
but no,
yeah. There's those albums that you're just like, oh, it's over now.
There's a lot of those records I have that it's like, oh, I have to listen to it again now.
Yes. And I get that with like all of Ghost's albums, but I don't get it with this one.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I would rather like you have a good album where it's just like you have to listen to it from start to finish. But with this, I can start from Watcher in the Sky and just listen to it.
Yeah, with me, that's like Priest has 4 of them, in my opinion, that I will just sit and listen to the entire record cover to cover and not even notice.
Yeah.
Ghost has a couple. Prequel I can just throw on and listen to the whole thing.
I really like. I feel like I don't want to say it's underrated, but I don't know. Like,
I think that might be their best record.
Oh, see, for me, it's gotta be Melioria, I think.
I think there's arguments to be had either way on that one. I think they both have elements that are unique, and depending on what you're into, I think you could argue either one.
Like that. Just talking about Melioria, Cerise. I think that's how you say it. The third track.
That was the first song I ever heard by Ghost. The first song I ever heard by Ghost. That was fucked out of 30 seconds.
That intro is just like, oh.
I love the tone of that intro of just like it's just like something is coming to get you.
Yes, that freaky in mode, or at least I think it's freaky in mode.
Metal intro, just like
yes,
I love
that. And it's just like it gets you going, and then when it comes in.
Oh, and then we have a third opinion from Nick Weiser.
Opus, yes. I think that's probably my second favorite Opus.
And I think this is a mark of a great band, is that you can have people who all are fans of the band and have 3 different favorite albums.
Yes. And it's tough between those 3 or 4 for me as well. Like Opus is definitely my second favorite, I think.
There's a lot of really good stuff on every single one of them. And there's not one album I can look at and say I don't like that record at all.
I definitely can't say that about any of them. No way.
They all have, at the very least, they have their high points. Like Opus is probably my least favorite if I had to pick one.
Okay.
Because it's probably the least polished. But
they're
like you say, there's good qualities to all of them. So
I
want to say this one.
Remember first start listening to an album so clearly. Like with Opus, that was for me. I remember listening to it at the gym or whatever. Just like, yeah, this is just absolute bangers. Like, how have I not got into this band before?
Yeah, and I think a lot of the Ghost as a band is very divisive in terms of the metal fan base, and people either love them or hate them.
How could you hate them? But yes,
because you're a death or black metal purist, and it's like, oh, it's not real metal. I get that all the time. Yeah. It's just like it's not the most metal thing ever, and yet it's fantastic.
If you're down for it, we need to do a Metallica.
Man, we will do that at some point, and I guarantee I know 1 or 2 people that are in the chat right now that would love to be a part of that.
Yes.
Spider, Nick Weiser, I'm assuming you're both down for something like that.
Gotta do a Metallica discussion. That'd be so fun.
Especially, I think we'd have to break it up into different eras.
Yeah.
You'd have to do the first 5 albums, like starting with Kill 'Em All and end with Black Album, because that was really the
I
classic
love,
period.
I'll just say right now, I absolutely love the Black Album. I feel like that is a controversial opinion as well, but that is one of my all-time
That's
favorites.
the dividing line, I think. I really dig it, but then again, that's also the album I grew up with. So that's the one I remember hearing as a kid. So maybe that colors it a little bit, but I did like where they were going. They tried to do something different with it. I just don't like the fact that was the direction they went for the rest of their career.
I feel like people don't like it, but I just like, that's one of my favorites they've done. But I'll save it for
absolutely. But yes, we will absolutely do that at some point, because if you're on a channel like mine, we're gonna talk about Metallica at a certain point. There's just no getting around it. No, that's and these guys are touring with Metallica on every tour. Like, and they love these guys.
They did a cover of Enter Sandman, didn't they? They believe it's on the anniversary edition of the Black Album that was released recently.
Yeah, I know they recorded it, but I know it wasn't released on one of Ghost records, and I was really upset about that.
Yeah, but it's on. I'm sure it's on this album. Yeah, the Metallica Blacklist. Oh no! I mean, yes. Sorry, there's several covers of Enter Sandman. That's why. But yeah, Ghost.
Yeah, I mean, everybody from I think Motorhead did a cover of it. These guys did a cover of it. Actually, I'd have to check.
Megadeth than Metallica.
Yeah, they both have their moments. I will say,
I like both for different reasons, for sure.
I think the musicianship with Megadeth is better at certain points. Like Rust in Peace is just an absolute classic. Like every track on that record is an absolute legend.
Yeah, yes.
And you start off, you're just like, okay, Holy Wars, bang, Tornado of Souls, bang, Hangar 18. It's just like,
yes,
just absolutely slaps. Talks. Celine Dion's better than Metallica. Well,
now that is blasphemy.
Oh man, you're gonna pay for that one, Tox.
Ooh.
I may not be the one that does it to you, but trust me, somebody will be along shortly. But I think Ghost has a lot to recommend them, and when bands like Metallica are holding these guys up, it's like, no, these guys are fantastic, and you should be listening to them. That I think speaks volumes for their actual ability.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And I like too, I saw them live in 2019. That's where I got the shirt from. And I love how they sound completely different live than they do on their records. They're
very much like a kind of, I don't know how to explain it, like full on performance, full on entertainment. Like it's more than just the music.
Oh, it's theatrical as hell. In fact, I have somewhere on here. Oh yeah, there we go. Some pictures of their tour, of their latest tour, and it's a very theatrical stage show. I was trying to find some of the pictures I took from when I saw them live, and I think they're on my old phone.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of live.
No, this was just
online, but yeah. Oh my god! And I really want a Goulet mask as well, obviously.
I don't like the aesthetics of this latest tour as much as I did the previous one.
I haven't seen much of it actually.
This is from this tour, like their new masks and everything. I liked the kind of industrial look they went with, but I like the silver a lot.
I like the silver. I like those a lot more.
Also, they swapped out their Phantoms for Stratocaster, so I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Ooh, yeah. No, I agree. I think from that,
because that was an iconic part of the band for a long time. Was the odd shaped guitars, the weird, the silver face mask. Like that was an icon of the band.
Yeah, that was iconic. I can't believe they changed that.
And I get you. There's time for change and stuff like that. I just don't know that that's something that really should have.
Yeah, It's hard because you want to keep it fresh, but like
Yes, and what Spy was saying is absolutely correct. Like hearing them live, they are a completely different animal. First of all, Tobias is hilarious live. Like the shit that comes
yeah,
out of his mouth is absolutely hysterical.
yeah. Oh my god, that must be so good.
And the musicianship, like they are so heavy
Yeah,
live. Like they were literally shaking the rafters at the arena I went to see him in.
oh,
I think it was the bass line for Miasma, like that deep
yeah.
bass intro. It was literally shaking the arena.
Wow. Oh my god.
It was how deep it was, and that's one thing I did like on this record a lot. Is the bass tone was prevalent in the right proportion, and it was
Oh, yeah,
audible the entire time.
that is what I love. You got to hear that bass.
Because too many bands out now, like they just lower the bass to the point where it's almost inaudible, and it's just kind of this low
That
rumble
is a
behind everything.
crime to me. I love to hear that bass. When you
And
get like a song that starts with like a good solid like bass intro. Oh yeah.
I think that's one of the things that originally sold Black Sabbath to people was that bass solo intro on NIB.
Mm.
And it's I think 70 said it during our Saxon review, but an actual bass guitarist is a rare thing. Like you can get guys who can play bass and just play rhythm on it,
Yeah, I know
and
what you mean. Like, yeah, like a committed
but like
bassist.
an actual musician that's a bass
Yeah,
guitarist is harder to come by. Like it's somebody like Lemmy from Motorhead, where he just completely changed the way that he played the instrument, and it sounds phenomenal. And that's one of the reasons Motorhead sounds the way they do. Is
bass
he
is
basically
underrated.
just took a 4-string bass and played it like a guitar.
Yeah,
But no, that is something I noticed very strongly. Even the first time I listened to it, I'm like, ooh, the bass is actually like turned up on this, and they actually let him
it's
play.
audible. Yeah, no, that's always a highlight for me. If you get a song with like good bass, oh yeah, that wins me over for sure. Um,
I think that's one of the reasons people fell in love with Iron Maiden too. Some of Steve Harris's bass lines are just absolutely sick.
there's just something about it. You get like a bit of chorus on there as well. So oh yeah,
Yeah, like especially like the way like Rush used to do it with Getty with some of their bass solos and stuff like that, where they just drop everything else out and they just have Getty with the bass, and it was just fantastic.
yeah, and it's like it does show not more talent, but you know what I mean. Like sort of, you can do that much with like two less strings.
Yeah,
Like yeah, that's always a winner for me.
and I just like last fall I went to see Primus live in Boston, and they were actually doing a Farewell to Kings by Rush, and holy shit, Les Claypool can play.
Oh
Hey,
yeah,
hey Jaffo, but no, just watching him do what he does on a bass guitar, like you hear it on their records and stuff like that, but you don't really get it until you see them do it live. And
yeah.
just the shit he's doing on a bass is just ridiculous.
Honestly, like I could do a whole stream just talking about like bass appreciation.
Oh yeah, I mean we'll probably do that at some point because it's one of my favorite things too.
Oh,
Even though I'm a six
yeah,
stringer, I love a good bass guitar because that's I think a mark of talent for the whole band is
yeah,
if one of those guys
absolutely.
is willing to sign on and do music with you, you got yourself some good talent because those guys can go wherever they want.
Yes.
And the guitar work too. Like I really hate. Oh, I don't know. I don't know who the original producer was at Spider. So that's an interesting question. But I wish we
Oh,
knew the. I wish we knew the musicians' names in a way because I would love to shout out these guys because
yeah,
they are talented as all hell.
that is something that sucks. Like I get it, I get why they do it, but yeah, like you
But it's like
don't get the recognition.
they're so talented. I want to
Mm,
shout them out for actually being the superb musicians they are. And it's not
yes.
even just on this record too. Like Prequel had some amazing guitar riffs and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Like Rats is just catchy as hell.
Rats. Yes, of course.
And even the guitar riffs are just ridiculous. They're so fun.
Yeah, fun. Just oh yeah.
somewhat simple to play too, so you can learn it in not all that much time. And it's just, they're. I think prequel is the perfect storm with Ghost. It's just poppy enough while also being really dark at points.
Yeah.
And they're really just,
that is what I like about Ghost. And I think, like I said before, Impera just doesn't have that quite enough.
Impera's a lot brighter musically.
Yeah.
Although I think lyrically it's a lot darker than a lot of their stuff. But no, musically it is a lot brighter than, and maybe like Spider's saying, that could be the producer, because a lot of that can be post production of what tone to set and stuff like that. Although I will say it's extremely highly polished. Like the production on this one is fantastic. Everything's clear as a bell. And I think part of that's like I said this on the Saxon review too. Most of this stuff was recorded in 2019.
Wow.
Like, so they were recorded before the pandemic. So these producers have had like 2 years to sit there and scrub everything off.
Yeah.
and really make sure everything's perfect from a production standpoint.
Yeah.
So I think that's maybe going to be a new hallmark going forward of some of these albums.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know if you had any other like points to talk about, but yeah, like overall. So
I wanted to go into Watcher in the Sky. I wanted to go into Watcher in the Sky in depth, because that is just an absolute titan of a track. That belongs
again, very catchy, but like just I don't know what it is. It just does something more for me than like
from minute one. It's like from the intro on, it just grabs you. That opening riff is just freaking just yes. No, you're gonna listen to this and you're gonna love it. Now shut up and sit down.
Yeah, you cannot think anything else.
Yeah, right. Oh man, like I remember the first time I listened to this, I listened to the whole record and then I put that song on repeat for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and so for me, like with like all the other Ghost albums, I like listen to them from start to finish. But with this, it's just like start at this track and just do that.
I do that a lot, but I'll listen to this song on its own, and it does musically does some things I've not heard from them before, including a dive bomb with a tremolo bar, which I was interested to hear. That's something you don't hear from them, and I don't think their old guitars had that. Like that, during the solo, that real dive bomb, and then the tremolo in the middle. That's a bar. That's not them doing that, because you can't get that smooth without one.
Yeah, I think I do respect that. Like they tried to do something a bit different, which like you have to, like, you know, when you're on like the 4th, 5th, 6th album.
Things get old after a while. You have to do something interesting.
Yeah. So like I definitely like it. It's I think, like I said, it's just like probably just saying the same things over and over here. But like, I think, you know, if you just have like, you know, you're baking a cake and you need to get like the exact proportions of every ingredient exactly right to get it perfect. Like it just needs a dash more of the dark from like the other albums for me to like it more.
That's I think what I think people were noticing with this, and it's something I enjoy. So that explains why I latched onto this album when so many other Ghost fans wouldn't.
It's just personal preference.
Yeah, it's a much more classic heavy metal record than the previous ones.
And that's why I was thinking, like listening to it, like
I think that's why I had such a different reaction even off the bat. Like even like Nick Weiser and stuff like that, we were talking about it when it first came out, and I'm like, he was like, I don't know how I feel about it. I'm like, I'm really enjoying it. No, I think that's cool that you can have, like I said, different sounds from the same band and have different fans from the same. It's funny that Spider says this. Spitalfield. The intro to Spitalfield is the intro riff to Poison by Alice Cooper. It's not similar. It is.
Oh, I need to
listen to them side by side. and I blow people's minds with this. I'm really good at doing that. Like I was the one that told everyone, and I'm absolutely correct, that note for note, pretty much, the intro to Bismarck by Sabaton is the Hellion by Judas Priest.
I'll get moments where I'm like, this sounds familiar, but I don't know why. And then like, do you ever do that thing where like you get a song in your head and it will like morph into another song? You don't know how it happened, but like
that happens to me at least once a day.
Like seamlessly, like it was the same song, but it's two different songs. And then you're like, oh, I wonder if they're like in the same key. Let me have a look.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, yes, they are, or those fit together, even if they're not in the same key. It's just like,
Yeah.
I bet if I tweak
Like,
this
why is my
one,
brain making this connection? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I bet if I tweak one of these, I can. Yes, if I play this in a major key, I can do that.
So I definitely get that sometimes. Yeah.
But no, but what I'm saying is like it is straight up copied. Like it's a little different musically, but
loads of times as well. But I need to have like another listen, I think, and then I'll be like, ooh.
And no, I mean it's at a certain point too, when you got guys like Alice Cooper or Ozzy or Black Sabbath, it's almost impossible not to steal one of their riffs. They've been around so long, they've done so many different things.
Yeah.
That it's just you're going to at some point.
Yeah.
Like especially some of Geezer's bass lines. It's like you're gonna steal a couple of Black Sabbath bass lines at some point in your life. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
And especially when you work inside of it, outside of one genre that's been around for 50, 60 years at this point, there's a lot of stuff that's already been gone over. And it's just a matter of doing it in a new and interesting way.
Absolutely.
And that's something I've dug about Ghost from the beginning is they're a doom metal band. They're and that's like one of the oldest styles of metal, and yet they do it in a very new and interesting way that sounds unique.
Yeah, like you could absolutely hear that like old school influence, especially with this album.
This album it's really prevalent, but even like Meliora has its moments of like, you can hear a lot of Blue Oyster Cult and Black Sabbath in there.
There's a it's got that like 80s synth vibe as well, a little bit like with Square Hammer, I think.
Square Hammer, I equate a lot to Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult.
And like I said before, love synths. I'm kind of a bias in that. I have a synth bias, but like I said, there's no like genre where synths can't fit in, but that's just me. But yeah, like you can absolutely hear that like old school, all like almost like, and I know they're Swedish, but like I feel like there's that like ABBA influence in there.
Well, sure. I mean, that, like you say, they're Swedish. I think that's pretty much unavoidable.
I
think it might be the law.
It might be the law, yeah. So yeah, 100% solid band. Like they have that kind of like real theatric like kind of side to them, like almost like Rammstein, I guess.
Yeah, I saw those guys live the last time they came to the States too, and that show is apparently toned way down from their actual stage show in Europe because over here no venue will insure them if they actually do their full show.
Oh, with like the pyrotechnics.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god!
Like if you've ever seen like Live House Berlin or Volker Ball, like half the stage is on fire at the end of this set, including the band. But I love the costume and design.
Oh, too. You have to admire that element of it, like even if you're not like a super fan of the music.
Oh yeah, like I said, it is my channel emblem after all. So, and it's where the name came from, essentially.
Yeah, I was thinking like that's definitely Ghost influence right there.
Oh yeah. But no, I don't think I liked this outfit as much as the previous ones, though, where it was a lot more obviously inspired by Catholicism and all that.
Yeah.
Like the first one is basically legit a Pope costume with skull paint.
Yeah.
But I think I like the aesthetic of the band overall, and I like the way it is evolved.
Yeah.
And that was essentially as soon as it's time for one of them to go, they'll just kill him off and replace him with a new one.
Yeah. I guess like every album they have like a different
Has it been every album? I thought 3 did too.
Well, I think this makeup is the same as the last one. I think is it the same guy, the Pope?
Yeah. If I remember
what's his
like,
name?
this is part of the cool thing with the fandom too, is like they have this like a consistent story. I think the Cardinal became Papa.
Cardinal Cofia.
Yeah, the one
that's
for
right.
prequel became this one.
Yes, I'm saying the makeup is the same, or it's
but I thought the third did 2 albums. I might be wrong on that though. I don't know if they replaced him every album or if they just changed the name.
Yeah, it might not be every album.
But no, I love the aesthetic of the band, and they have this whole story to them too. Like it's not just a rock band; like they're a full theatrical performance.
Yeah, I do like that a lot about Ghost.
And that's been a thing with heavy metal bands before. It's not unique to them. I mean, if you've ever seen Iron Maiden live, they really go all out with the stage production and stuff like that. Like for Aces High, they have a almost full scale Hawker Hurricane drop down out of the ceiling.
Wow.
Or like the Trooper, Bruce will be out there in a full on red coat outfit waving a British flag, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, you do have to admire they're putting on it's not just a gig, it's like a full on absolute performance, just going wow.
And the most admirable thing about that too is it's expensive as hell to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that comes out of their cut. Like all the stage production and stuff like that comes out of their budget. That's because, let's face it, the venue's not going to pay for it, and neither is the label.
No. So you have to respect that. They're just a solid band.
And I'm hoping they never get to this point, but there's usually a point, especially at this point in a band's career, where they're just doing album tour, that the creativity just kind of goes away and you start getting samey. I hate to say this because I really dig both albums, but Sabaton is getting like that with this is why I thought he did too. He did an EP. But Sabaton's getting like that with their last 2 records. I think they were supposed to be recorded as almost a double album because they're both about World War I.
Right.
But it does feel like 2 halves of the same album rather than 2 separate records, which is the first time they've done that.
Right.
And Sabaton's another band that they have a very established sound and they have their own little niche, and there's nobody like them. Because let's face it, who else has a tank that they put up on stage?
Yeah, I have to be honest. They're not a band I'm super familiar with, but I'm probably gonna have to.
It's basically power metal military history, and it's done in a way that's really, really good. I love the way that a lot of metal bands kind of stay away from the modern politics era, and especially Sabaton has a rule, I know, that any war that's under 15 years old, they won't do anything on. Because at that point, it's current events, and you don't really know what happened yet. It's all propaganda on both sides. And it would be like trying to write a song on the Ukraine right now, where what side do you even believe?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely respect that because, like you said, you don't know. You don't have full history because the full history hasn't really happened yet. And
it just takes time for actual research and digging through both sides' casualty reports and stuff like that, and try to piece out what actually happened.
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than what both of the belligerents say happened, which they're obviously going to say whatever benefits their side.
Exactly. Yeah, very true.
I mean, one of my favorite examples of that was the initial invasion of Iraq in 2003, where you had the guy that Americans refer to as Baghdad Bob, their propaganda minister, essentially being like, "Oh yeah, we're driving the Americans way away from Baghdad," and meanwhile you can hear American tanks rolling by in the background. But no, Ghost, I think, is one of those bands that I hope they never get into that rut where they haven't so far, where every album kind of starts sounding the same and they start kind of losing a lot of that originality.
I just I don't know. I just have a feeling Tobias Ford wouldn't let that happen. I don't know. There are just
I think you're right.
We're just always trying to I don't know how familiar you are with Johnny Marr from the Smiths. totally different genre, obviously, but like
I know the Smiths
I
pretty
did
well.
like that. Like always just moving on to the next thing and like not letting anything go stale. I feel like he's a bit like that. But
No, I feel
you're
like he's definitely that guy that if he notices that it's starting, like it's not as creative as it used to be, or it's
right,
starting
just
to
do
get
something
a
truly.
little too machinistic, like it is a machine at a certain point where, especially once you get stuck in this loop of,
Like I get it because it must be so hard, like record deals
well,
and
especially the label's going to be,
yeah,
Ghost is so popular right now, they just want more. They want another album, another tour, and like you need to capital. And there's common knowledge in the rock and metal scene, like you only get about 5 to 10 years of like real peak popularity before something else comes along.
I feel like Tobias will just like think of something totally.
He'll either create his way out of it, or he'll just be like, "Fuck it, I guess we're done then."
Yeah, I feel
And
like
I hope that doesn't happen because I want Ghost to be producing stuff for decades to come. But I feel like at the very least they won't go the route of just selling out and making another album and
yeah,
make
I
another
feel like
album.
he'll know when it's done and then just like come out with something totally new.
And I think a lot of artists, they know when they're done.
Yeah,
And I think that's going to be that's a barometer of not only who you are as an artist, but who you are as a person, is whether or not you're honest enough to be like, no, this isn't my best work. I think I'm done with this and I want to do something different.
yeah.
And then having the courage to walk away from that thing while it's still good.
I feel like I don't know. I just get a feeling like Tobias is one of those. So
I feel like he is that guy that will have the honesty to be like, this isn't my best work. I don't think I have it in me to do this anymore, and I want to do something different and move on to that next thing. And it's going to suck for Ghost fans, but that's
at least like you'd rather that than like them do what you just said, where they just like carry on for the sake of it.
I would much rather we get like 5 or 6 great albums out of them, and then nothing else, and then nothing more, or at least not for a while. Than it turn into Kiss or something like that, where it's just generic sold the fuck out rock and roll, and like it's not bad, but it's also not them.
Yeah.
I think Tobias is that guy too. That was like, this isn't Ghost.
Yeah. He'll come up with something like I don't know. Like you think about he was in Repugnant, and he's probably done a lot of other things as well. Like
The crazy thing with him is how many different instruments he can play well.
Yeah.
And how many different
that's
types
the other
too.
thing is I think he'll probably get bored with what he's doing now because he is a musician. Like I feel like he'll want to do if at least like something on the side with Ghost, if not just something totally.
And I think that's why every album sounds very different too.
Yeah.
And why you hear so many different musical styles come out of them is he'll get bored if he does the same thing over and over again. Which I think is the recipe for a really great band and a real innovator. Mm-hmm. Like who knows, they may come out with their own little subgenre.
Yeah.
Because bands like this usually are the ones that absolutely change the game.
Yeah.
And in a way, it's like they're really hard to classify. On one hand, musically, they're mostly doom metal with a lot of hard rock in there. And
yeah, so people listen to them and be like, they're not metal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Spider even said it, but I hope that moment is a long time coming because I think they have a lot more in them as a band. And I like the fact that they change out members constantly because even though Tobias says he does all the writing and stuff like that, I can't help but think that the musicians that play with them on the records have a lot of input into the overall sound of the record.
I think
maybe that'll keep it fresh.
Yeah, I think they've got to have something like that. I think it's Year Zero, which is like one of my favorite songs by Ghost.
I love playing that one for people who don't know they're a satanic band yet.
Oh, that's such a good song.
Like especially like when you put it in a loop with like Square Hammer or something like that. Like, oh yeah, whatever. And then that song's like, oh, what band are we listening to again?
I think it's that like he didn't write at all. I might be a bit wrong on that, but it's something like someone else, like one of the guitarists, like had more input on that song, and that is an absolute banger.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can tell that certain things got amped up for certain records or for certain tracks, and I really enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, like Spider says, they had 2 years of writing and recording on this one, so that I think that helps a lot too. Where
Yeah,
when you're under the gun in terms of the record label wants another album, they want it now, and you just kind of have to go with what you've got rather than
in
have
that
like
2 years, like he's almost certainly going to be working on like the next thing, like Spider saying.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
you have a lot of you had a lot of lead time on this one that you can really play around with ideas that may not be fully formed yet, rather than, well, it's the idea we have and we need an album in 6 months, so we got to go with it, whether
yeah,
it's good or not. And I
so
think I think that served this band well. And I'd suspect they have another album in the can,
yeah, I wouldn't be
or at
surprised.
the very least written and ready to record.
Yeah,
Because I
Tobias is definitely
know
doing
most bands just
something.
spent the entire lockdown writing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I agree, like 100%. I'm sure there's already something a cooking from Tobias at least. So yeah.
I'd suspect we'll be hearing from them again now more than later. And they did have a couple of singles in the middle there too, including the one we haven't talked about, which I actually really enjoy, Hunter's Moon.
Oh yes. Again, it's like you said, like on the side A side of the album. I'm not digging it as much as that's
Which is
come
funny
out.
because that's one of the most synth heavy songs on the album.
I know, and I love synths, but like, yeah, it just it's a good track. Like the whole thing is good. It's just it doesn't do it for me. Like
And
I can't explain it.
when that track came
Yeah.
out too, I was really blown away by how like they can just consistently have a very different sounding album and different sounding tracks and just make it instantly recognizable as Ghost pretty much immediately.
Mm. I like what Spider just said. My guess next album will be stripped down, straight guitar driven in the vein of Alice in Chains.
I
Alice in
fucking
Chains
hope
is one
so.
of my favorite bands ever. So yes.
I mean I'm not the world's biggest AIC fan. I think they're the best of the grunge movement by far.
Oh
But
yes.
and I can only hope that it's straight guitar driven. I mean,
That would be
yeah,
amazing. I'd love
I'm a
to
guitar
hear
player,
that.
so that's the candy for me.
I'd love to hear like the grunge Ghost. That would be so interesting.
That would be really cool to hear like a more, and they have kind of been progressing through the rock sound from the 70s into the 80s. So that's the next logical step, is to go with the grunge movement in the early 90s.
Like I never thought about that, but yeah, that sounds just like
I would
super
love, and
interesting.
speaking of Alice, I would love to see them tour with Alice Cooper. The stage show would just be phenomenal.
Yes.
Like, especially with modern Alice Cooper, with Nita Strauss playing guitar for him and stuff like that. Like, I think that would go really cool. And maybe King Diamond in there as well, because he's got a very horror themed performance too. And I love his concept.
Yeah, they would definitely.
I never saw the movie, thank God, so I don't know which one, but the album version I like quite a bit. But no, I think all three of them have a very horror theme. I would actually like to see them do like a King Diamond-esque like horror story album. They do like or Ghost does like a concept record where it's like a horror story told in 12 tracks. I think that would actually be really cool. But no, I think that would be one way they could go, especially if they want to go more towards the heavy metal side of the house. That's been a thing in the genre for decades now, and I think that would be a cool thing for them to do, because I like concept albums in general, where it's got kind of more theme to it.
Yeah, I dig a good concept album for sure.
What would be really interesting is if they had different singers play different roles too. Like you have King Diamond on there for like, the ghost or what, or like the spirit or whatever, because he does that like eerie wail that I don't think Tobias can really do.
Well, yeah.
Or even Rob Halford with that like low end rumble he has now in his older age. Which is something he picked up along the way. He used to sound horrible in the lower registers. Like early Priest, like if you ever heard like Rock and Rolla or some stuff on Sad Wings of Destiny, he does not sound good when he's down there. But I think as his high end kind of got more inconsistent like towards the modern era, because he's in his 60s and you can't do that forever. I think he developed that sound a lot more, and it would be interesting to see if Tobias's voice changes as well. So, I think that'll be an interesting thing, because that's just something bands have to deal with, is getting older and having to change your sound based on what you can do now, for good or worse. That's the last slide. All right. But yeah, I'm really impressed by this record. Overall, I would give it something like overall, I would say this is a different record for them and a lot brighter one, but I don't think that makes it worse in a lot of ways. I also fully recognize I'm probably going to be in the minority on this, because a lot of Ghost fans are in it for that darker sound and the more sinister vibe. And I think that's fine. I think that's why bands do different types of records, is, you have a different sound and you never know how people are going to respond to that until you actually get out there and record it. And I think this is one that has a lot of promise. And I think it may just not have worked out the way a lot of people wanted it to. And I think that's I don't think that's a bad thing. I think you try different things in your career and then see how it works out. I know more than one band that's changed their sound a lot over the years and liked it. I also know some bands where they changed their sound entirely and it didn't go well. Metallica. So I think the time will tell how this album gets described and gets either vilified or praised as it deserves. I don't know how we're going to see it in 5 years, but for my part, I keep listening to it and I keep noticing newer things every time I spin it, and I keep liking it more and more. Currently, I'd put it at around I'd say a 7.8 to an 8. And I see that going up as it gets older and as I sit with it more. I don't know how chat feels about it. And I guess we'll ask Amber when she gets back on what that kind of on how she feels about it. But I think it's going to stand the test of time, and I think it's going to get better as it goes along. Unlike a lot of albums, there's more than one record where I've bought it, I've really enjoyed it, and then the new shiny thing comes along, and I will put it on the shelf and not listen to it again for years. So this one I think is going to be in the rotation for a while. I don't know for how long, but we'll see. Although I think in terms of albums coming out this year, it's going to be hard to beat Sabaton's new record and Carpe Diem by Saxon. I mean, I've done reviews on both of those, so you guys can go and watch those for yourself. I would heavily recommend both records, and I would heavily recommend this one too. Even if you're not a huge fan of Ghost, even if you're not actually, I think this might be a good one if you're not a Ghost fan or haven't been a Ghost fan in the past, I think this might be the one that you want to give a chance to, because I think it sounds very different, and I think it might be a lot more up people's alley that maybe haven't liked the sound that Ghost has had to this point. And I was just saying, I think I'll give this album like a 7.8 to an 8 out of 10. And I expect that to go up as it gets older, because every time I keep listening to this, I keep hearing something new and something I didn't notice before. So I foresee that going up in the future. What would you give it as like a rating?
At the moment, maybe like 6.5 to 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Just because, you know, everything we've been talking about, I prefer the second half more. Like you said, like sometimes the more you listen to it, you sort of like things more or notice things more that you didn't initially.
And I think songs like Kaiserian and Spillways are going to worm their way into your heart eventually. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, that could happen. That could happen. So yeah, that is where I sit at the moment. Like, it's a solid album. Just
no, I mean that's like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's going to be in my rotation for a long time. I wouldn't put it up there with Saxon or Judas Priest, or not Judas Priest, but Sabaton's new record. In terms of pure quality, I mean, I gave both of those over a 9. They're some of the best albums I've heard out of those bands.
Mm-hmm.
And that's saying something, especially given Saxon's history. But no, I would give this one a solid 7.8 to 8. And I think that's going to go up, like I said. And I think this is a good intro point for newer fans to the band who maybe haven't heard their older stuff.
Yeah.
I think this is a good bridge for like the old, more like you said, you heard this album and immediately thought like, oh yeah, he's going to like these. So like,
yeah, probably like super, like the more old school.
Yeah, so I think this is a good tie-in for the older crowd to come in and be like, oh, okay, this is what people are talking about with these guys.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
And I think that's important too, because like, you know, you have a larger audience and you have a larger fan base. And I think it's important to like bridge the gap with the older metalheads too, in that there's a ton of them out there. Like there's a ton of people I know who used to be into the scene and used to be into the older stuff and have gotten away from it. I was like that for a while, where I liked a lot of the older stuff and I liked a lot of the stuff we grew up with in the 90s. And then I kind of got away from it because, you know, I was, you know, on active duty or just not paying attention. And then I think Sabaton was the one that really got me back into it in like 2015. And I kind of heard some of their stuff. And I was like, oh, there's actual new stuff coming out that sounds great. It's not all the, you know, and then I kind of went down the rabbit hole with them. And I think I found Ghost not long thereafter.
Yeah.
And they've just been phenomenal pretty much since minute one. And I think them touring with bands like Metallica has only helped them in not only musically, but in terms of people get to see them live. And I would if they ever come through your area, I would heavily recommend going. It is, it's an experience.
Yeah, like they are about like a number one priority to see live for sure. Like you say, it's not even, obviously the music is the main thing, but it's more than that. It's just a whole performance. And yeah, you know, obviously I've seen like videos of them performing live. It's just like, oh, I need to see these people live so badly.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those, like, you can't describe it. It's like seeing Iron Maiden live, where it's like, yeah, you know, it's an experience, but you don't really know until you've seen it.
Yeah. So yes, got to make that a priority for sure.
Absolutely. I did. I actually missed them the last time they came through. They came in the day after. Came through here the day after my birthday, but I was
Problem with
busy.
these bands, like they'll do UK tours, and then there'll be like a few shows in like London, which is not a fun place to go.
Yeah,
To see
I've heard that from a bunch of people that London's like going to
not
New
a lot
York
of
for the
good
night.
venues there, really, to be honest, and it's just like super expensive to get to and stuff. And then like anywhere else, it's like way out. So unless they're doing like a full UK tour, it's really difficult. Where they're like going to more like different places in the UK. But if you're like, because I think they have done a few shows like in London recently, but it's
So
just not really viable to go and see bands in London if you don't live there. So yeah, it's a difficult one with gigs, unfortunately, in the UK. And like obviously with lockdown and stuff, we kind of like got out of the habit of seeing bands live. But I definitely want to start doing it again with certain bands. Like Ghost is absolutely 100% worth it, obviously. But
I was hoping to do that with Judas Priest I think last week, but unfortunately they canceled the show
I
last
can't
minute
believe
because
that. Like, what
because
was
of
the
Rob's
reason?
health. Basically, Rob's health wasn't great. They were afraid he had COVID. Turned out he tested negative, but he had a
That's the
lot of the
thing, like
symptoms.
the
So they
uncertainty with that as well. Like it's just like, oh,
yeah.
this just
So
sucks. Yeah,
it's and it's unfortunate too because like especially a band that's that age, you never know when the last time you're gonna see them live before something
yeah,
goes.
of course. Yeah, I was so gutted for you. Like you said, they cancelled. I was like, no,
I
it's been
mean,
like
fortunately, I have seen them before. So,
okay. Well, at least it's that.
but it was really bad because it was the third time they rescheduled because I had tickets to go see them in September 2020. That obviously never happened.
Yeah.
And then I had tickets for the rescheduled show, and they had actually added a date, so I was actually going to be going to see them 2 nights in a row. On last year, and unfortunately, that was when Richie damn near died on stage. So
Yeah.
like 2 weeks before I was supposed to see them, so that never happened, and then this was supposed to be the makeup show for that. And eventually, I don't think they rescheduled it because they refunded everybody's money. So hopefully they'll start a new tour.
Hopefully, yeah.
But when you talk about like heavy metal legend status, like Richie Faulkner had an aortic aneurysm on stage during the middle during the solo,
Oh my god.
finished the song, and then went off stage and collapsed.
Jesus Christ. Oh my
Like
god.
that's just like okay, you're
That is rock
automatic.
and roll,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like you're automatically a fucking legend now, dude. Like your heart literally exploded on stage, and you still finished the set.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's insane. And survived to tell the
Well, I
tale.
mean, apparently the doctors told him when they were done working on it, it was just like, most people we got with this don't walk in here alive.
No, like with those, yeah, it's you don't have a lot of time.
Fortunately, the hospital was just right up the street from the venue, so they got him
Yeah,
there in like 2 minutes.
that is insane.
But
Oh,
no, I think that about does it for this album. Like I said, I think there's a lot more life left in this band, and I would love to see where they go next.
yeah, I'm intrigued to see what they do after this for sure.
So I don't know if there's anything you want to plug or that you're doing because I know you just dropped some new music on YouTube.
Yeah, so I make my own music, and I write poetry sometimes, and I do some videos for that. So if you're interested in that, my music is like electronic synthwavy stuff. So if you're interested in that, I do that on my YouTube channel. I haven't been posting like super regularly recently, just because of other commitments and time and stuff. But I am still posting on there as much as I can. I'm on Bandcamp as well. My music is on there. You can just search Amber Andromeda, and I'm also on Twitch, which is a totally different vibe. I obviously just do like gaming and stuff on there. I am going to be doing a stream this evening. My name is Amber_Andromeda over on Twitch. And we're going to be playing Gartic Phone, hopefully, with some cool peeps. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, those are those like the main places that you'll find me. So yeah, if you want to hang out on Twitch tonight, that'll be awesome. Like I say, I'm Amber_Andromeda over on there. Yeah, so I stream like at least like 2 to 3 times a week, so that'll be good to see you over there. That's it really. Those are like my main things, I guess, I want to plug. Thank you.
I agree with Sam, by the way. But
thank you.
Do you guys all know who I am? I am, obviously, if you're here, I do music videos like this. Occasionally I'll do a solo review if I don't have a guest or it's something I want to talk about like right then and don't want to wait to schedule the review. I've done that a couple of times, but I think I'll be doing a lot more of these conversations going forward because I like these a lot more. I have a lot more fun with it, and we get to toss around different ideas.
Yeah, I would say as well as like I would like to start doing something like that on my channel as well. Like I've done a few reviews, but I definitely enjoy like more collab style.
Absolutely, I have a lot more fun with it, at least on my end, and like we found out with this one, like we get to have two completely different opinions on the record. So I think that's really good because it's just boring when everyone agrees all the time and everyone's just kind of smiling and nodding and say, I do like having that different perspective.
Also, like if you're not used to kind of talking, it's like, you know what I mean? Like you're not used to just like talking into a camera. I think when you have that, like somebody else to just bounce off of, and you're like, oh yeah, I want to talk about this point or this point, and so yeah, I definitely prefer it. This is why I like streaming as well, because I don't know, you just get that kind of almost like spontaneous element to it that you don't get when you're just doing a solo video.
When I do, especially music streams like this, whether it's be on my channel or I've been on 70s Rock Fans channel talking about The Who, and we'll probably be doing another one of those because that was a great conversation. I mean, we went for 3 hours and we barely got out of Quadrophenia. So we'll be but it reminds me a lot of just hanging out in a local record store and just talking about music for a while, and I miss those days.
Yeah, like for me, I don't really know anybody that's like into music that much, and like people that I have known in the past, like they tend to be quite arrogant about it. So you just want to be able to like, of course you haven't listened to every single album by every single artist, and like it's not a competition. I feel like people make it a competition.
I really hate those types of fans too, because they turn people off rather than, oh man, you haven't heard that yet? Here you go. Like, here's my copy. Listen to it. You'll love it.
Yeah, and when you can just have like a casual, just fun conversation about it, like much prefer that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed being on the stream today. It's been very
absolutely
fun.
Well, I'd love to have you on again. I'd love to have you on again. And we'll definitely do more of this type of stuff because I like this type of content. And well, as Sam says, well, I'm going to be on his channel. That's actually what I was about to talk about next. Is I'm going to be on his channel tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern to go over my background, my history with pop culture, that kind of stuff. And
I'm going to have to check your channel out, Whitfield Report.
Yeah, that should be a fun time. Absolutely. He does a lot of really good stuff. Last week, Nick Weiser was on there. So fans of this channel will certainly be familiar with all it, with a lot of the people who are on there. And then other than that, currently I'm doing my gaming streams on Twitch. I've just started doing that. I've done a couple of BattleTech streams and it seems to work pretty well. So I'll probably do that on there because it's a more efficient platform for that rather than using YouTube.
Yeah, it is for sure.
And down in the link the description of this video, I have a link to my Rumble account where I back up everything I do on YouTube over there. So if you don't want to give YouTube the time of day, you can go and watch it over there. And I'm actually monetized over there, so it helps me out.
Ooh,
I haven't made any money off of it yet, so I don't know if there's like a thing that needs
still though, that's really
to
good. Like,
trigger. So it's still a
yeah,
cool thing to play around with, and it's really just I do this for fun, but if I can make money out of it, why not?
yeah, absolutely.
But I really like Rumble as a platform. It's not as user friendly as YouTube is, but I think that's only a matter of time as more people use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
do like supporting alt tech over any of the current mainline ones. Like that's why I don't have a link in the description. I'll add it after this video to my Gilded server that I've been setting up. I know Sam's on there from Whitfield Report. I think Spider, I saw you over there, if I'm not mistaken. Could be somebody else though. There's a whole list of us on there, and it's basically Discord, but a little more lax in terms of their terms of service, and also I find some of their functionality over there a lot better than Discord is. So and it's still in beta on a lot of it, so I think that'll be getting better going forward, and I'm glad to play around with that. So I'll definitely check that out once I put the link in the description. And then I have a link in there to Amber's channel as well. And as always, I have the full album link there if you want to listen to it, just so you can hear what we're all talking about if you haven't listened to the record yet. And no, I think that's going to do it for this stream. I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully we'll be doing more in the future.
yes. I already have a proposal for the next conversation that we can have.
Okay.
So yeah, no, I really enjoyed coming on. Thank you for having me. As I say, I've not really done anything like this before, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I appreciate you having me on. Thank you everybody for watching. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, chat. You guys have been great. We obviously we wouldn't be doing this without you. But yeah, I think that's going to do it. So as always, stay healthy, stay safe. I love you all, and I'll catch you next time.
Bye.